Hello, this is Lindsay Galen going to answer some questions from Sociology Module 8. The first question I wanted to answer was society has changed over the past decade from style to language and even our environmental resources. Give an example of how social change has affected physical environment, population, innovation, diffusion, and mass media. Over the past decade, we have changed a lot. Right now, we are, in terms of like style and the language that we are using right now, it's kind of like recycled language. And like fashion, a lot of the things that we are like driving from right now are like modern versions of like from the 70s and 80s and 90s. Has been really popular lately. The language just keeps getting more relaxed and relaxed. Um, we now talk to our bosses sometimes like we do our friends. It just depends on like what type of boss you have and how professional the job is. But like people who work at Target, most of the the people talk to them like how they would their friends. Um, we have changed how we communicate with each other. We have gotten like advanced technology like smartphones and iPhones and stuff like that. We communicate over the internet now, and most of the time it's over like Snapchat or social media. And so that's changed from talking on the phone and in person a lot. It has changed the way that we talk to each other. Um, the population has, in the most part, just become more diverse and it just become more accepting of people. One of the biggest things is that, like, one of the big things is there was an attack in 2016 on the nightclub Pulse in Florida, which was an attack on the LGBT community, and it was set to tear them apart and to tear them down. And as a society, we brought them up and showed them that we were there for them and that more people are accepting of how people feel about each other. And we showed that if it's not hurting somebody, then you can love who you love. And we're diffusing the negative stigmas around like social, around health, mental health, and like liking somebody of the same sex. The next topic I want to talk about is the information revolution was and still is an important perspective in social change. In your opinion, how has it changed society, and how do you feel it will change society in the future? The information of the world now is obviously the internet, and now we have iPhones and we have technology that we can call each other on and go on the internet and social media. We now can see everything at the touch of a button, so we can see things from like Google and YouTube and other things like Instagram and Twitter. And that's what most of the new generation gets their like news from, and knows what's going on in the world is from the internet. A decade ago, we didn't have any of these things. We had just started to get the first smartphone, and it just had internet, but people weren't using them like they are now in their day-to-day lives. Most of these kids who have phones now, they've had them since birth, and people like me who didn't have a phone even until they were in like 6th grade, and we didn't have smartphones when I was in growing up. So the first phone that I had was a flip phone, and I didn't grow up with technology, or we just had started to get some of the like technologies and a computer in each household and the internet. It's going to be a big problem in the future, I believe, because these kids don't know how to interact with each other, and parents aren't interacting with their kids like they used to, and they're using the technology as a buffer of having not to entertain their kids. And so they're not getting that interaction between the family member and the parent, the child, and teaching them in face direction on how to act. They would rather, like when people go out to eat, they would rather put a phone in front of their child and let them want to watch a video instead of having them throw their temper tantrum and disciplining them. The next topic I want to talk about is how has modernization changed under many underdeveloped nations. Modernization of the third world countries has helped in many ways, but it also has not helped in many ways. To get to the point that these countries are now, it took a lot of work to get to that because first world countries had to go in there and they had to help their economy and show them how to get jobs. And sometimes when the help leaves and they show them how to get their economy up, they can't do as much as the people who knew how to do it. Also, people in these third world countries, it gives women more rights because there's more jobs to be filled, and so it allows women to have jobs because they don't have enough people to fill the jobs. Also, third world countries are the number one place for like HIV, AIDS, diseases that we don't see in first world countries. So by them growing their economies, it'll be able to help them get health care and better health care and people who know how to treat these conditions, and so it'll help them get rid of some of these stigmas of having the HIV and the AIDS and not being able to treat them. On the other hand, it may create a bigger problem between the first world countries and the third world countries. If the third world countries don't know how to keep the economies going, then it could just tank their economy and they could just be even farther behind the first world countries, and they won't be able to get back to where they were, so they just go back to their old ways. The next question I want to answer is, what are the types of social movements that have occurred in history, when, and why do they occur? So there are 4 kinds of social movements. There are 4 kinds: alternate social movements, redemptive social movements, reformative social movements, and revolutionary social movements. An alternative social movement advocate for individual minor changes. A redemptive social movement occurs at the societal level and advocates for minor changes. A reformative social movement occurs at a societal level and advocates for minor changes. And a revolutionary social movement occurs at a societal level and advocates for rational changes, or radical changes, sorry. An example of an alternative social movement is a campaign like AT&T's It Can Wait campaign. It's campaigning for people to wait to text and drive or look at their phone until they are stopped or at their destination. They've said it through like commercials or on TV or streaming sites just to show awareness. So it's just like an alternate form of a campaign and trying to get it out there through like social media or the internet. An example of a redemptive social movement is a group like AA. It is helping and bringing awareness to individuals who are having a problem with alcohol or like drugs and making them a society, and it is bringing them for a safe place for them to talk and to be able to talk about things that have happened in their present and their past. An example of a reformative social movement is like the marriage equality movement. So it's something that currently already had like a bill or like a law passed about it, and it's just changing. So an example of this could be like the government stepping in and changing the law to being it okay to have a same-sex marriage. And the last one that I want to talk about is the revolutionary social movement. Is like advocating for equal rights because it didn't have a bill or a law before. Um, a lot of it's like when women got the right to vote in the early 60s, and now women are getting more rights, and it's just leading to people all having equal rights and being able to have the same paying jobs and the same type of job, and being able for women to be able to have a high to be like the leader of a company.